2026 will see some major regulation changes, new cars, new teams including the introduction of Cadillac, and the transitioning of Caulz over to Audi. Now Audi of course are one of the biggest car brands in the world, but are owned by the VW or Volkswagen Group, who also own other brands such as Porsche, Ducati and even Lamborghini. Now the Volkswagen name has never officially been seen in the world of Formula 1, but could they defeat the upcoming challenge of their child company Audi by taking charge of their own brand new team? So I loaded up F125 MyTeam, created a brand new Volkswagen Formula 1 team, signed both Paul Aaron and Zach O'Sullivan, and simulated through the next 10 seasons to see where they would end up. Now before we begin, please make sure you're subscribed, and you can also become a channel member by clicking the join button below. The Constructors' Championship would be quite a close fight to round off what would be the 2025 Formula 1 season, with McLaren coming out on top to the surprise of pretty much no one. The new Volkswagen team end their first season at the very bottom of the standings, finishing 5 places behind the Sauber team and failing to score even a single point. Paul Aaron would be the more successful driver to finish in P20, but only ahead of Liam Lawson and his teammate of Zach O'Sullivan. Lando Norris can only finish in P4 this year, being beaten by his teammate for the first time on F125, as Oscar Piastri moves up to take 3rd place. The reigning champion and Red Bull driver of Max Verstappen could only finish as the runner-up, with a brand new first-time champion being crowned in this very first season. 7-time champion Lewis Hamilton is down in P5, but his teammate Charles Leclerc will top the standings to take his first ever title, finishing just 10 points ahead of Max Verstappen. Despite the points gap, Verstappen would take the most race wins this season after he took 5, while the champion Charles Leclerc would actually only win 4. Both McLaren drivers were able to secure 3 race wins each, with Lewis Hamilton also securing his first race win for Ferrari. Now a major shock comes at the end of the year with 25-year-old Yuki Tsunoda retiring at the end of the first season. Verstappen will partner his best friend next year with Esteban Ocon moving over to Red Bull, with race winner Lewis Hamilton making a questionable move to Haas. Kimi Antonelli moves to Ferrari after his rookie season, with Pierre Gasly moving over to Mercedes, while Alpine will provide a debut for Pepe Marti. Volkswagen will drop Zach O'Sullivan after his P22 finish, bringing in the only German driver on the grid, as Hülkenberg will move over to VW, and Jack Crawford is signed by Caulz. Lando Norris just missed out on the top 3, and he is set to leave McLaren, with Franco Colapinto being brought in for his first full season debut next year. Now the chassis and powertrain departments will also see the first regulation changes of the simulation as we head into Season 2. Losing Lewis Hamilton was a major blow to the Ferrari team, as they go from championship winners to finishing P4 in Season 2. They were overtaken by Mercedes, McLaren who remain runners-up, and the Red Bull Racing team who were able to top the standings and secure another Constructors title. Volkswagen make improvements to finally score some points, with 9 points taking them to a P8 finish, and just ahead of the Caulz team for the first time. Paul Aaron scores a single point this year, but is beat by his new teammate after Nico Hülkenberg scores 8 points and finished up in P14. The former champion Charles Leclerc is nowhere near the top this season and will only be able to finish in 3rd place this year, being overtaken by the McLaren driver of Oscar Piastri, who finishes this year as the runner-up. This opens the door for the Red Bull driver of Max Verstappen to return to championship winning status to win his 5th Drivers' Championship. He would improve on last season's performance to win a total of 6 races, while the runner-up Oscar Piastri would only manage to win 4. Charles Leclerc would take 3 race wins on his way to 3rd place, while George Russell, Carlos Sainz and Esteban Ocon were all able to add another race win to their career tallies. Now speaking of George Russell, he is set to leave Mercedes at the end of the season, with Max Verstappen leaving his championship winning car to drive for the Silver Arrows. Red Bull will try and replace their champion by bringing in Lando Norris, as he returns to Formula 1 next year. VW's German driver is the latest driver to retire, with the team bringing in Pierre Gasly over from the Mercedes team. Franco Colapinto makes a jump over to join Max Verstappen, with Carlos Sainz returning to one of his former teams of McLaren. Isaac Hadjar escapes the clutches of Helmut Marko and moves over to Williams, with Zane Maloney being given his debut at the Racing Bulls next year. The other VW driver Paul Aaron is set to move to Haas, after Oliver Behrman moves over to Aston Martin, with Fernando Alonso joining Caulz, and finally Gabriel Bortoleto will drive for the Volkswagen team in the 3rd season. And also going into that 3rd season, the chassis department faces more regulation changes, this time being partnered with the aerodynamics department. Now despite losing their champion, Red Bull managed to remain at the top of the Constructors' Championship, with a large gap over runners-up Ferrari. Volkswagen will have 2 new drivers this season and will remain on a similar level, but do drop down to P9 after being overtaken by the Caulz team. Both VW drivers will score 2 points each, with Gasly and Bortoleto finishing P16 and P17 respectively. Season 1's champion Charles Leclerc doesn't make any major improvements this year and will once again finish in 3rd place and once again behind Max Verstappen, who fails to retain his title after his switch to Mercedes. Instead, the championship will go to his replacement at Red Bull, as Lando Norris outscores Max by just 16 points to win his first ever Formula 1 World Drivers' Championship. Norris would match Verstappen's 6 race wins last season, with Verstappen himself only managing to win 4 times in his debut with Mercedes. Charles Leclerc would then somehow end 5 races on the top step, as Alex Albon takes his Williams to his very first Formula 1 race win. There was just a single driver transferred this season, with Fernando Alonso becoming the latest driver to retire, and Victor Martins is being brought in by Caulz for his debut season. Now, the aerodynamics department is also hit for the second season in a row, with the powertrain department also seeing their own regulation changes. Kimi Antonelli finds his footing to help Ferrari return to winning the Constructors' Championship after they have failed to do so since Season 1. The reigning champions Red Bull fall to third place, being overtaken by the Mercedes team, with McLaren falling further away from the top. Volkswagen remain around the same level, finishing once again in P7, but scoring the most points so far as they finished with 23. Gabriel Bortoleto would end up scoring 21 of them and securing a 12th place finish, while Gasly's 2 points saw him down in P16. Lando Norris falls quite far away from the top of the championship, ending up in third place, being overtaken by Max Verstappen, who manages to keep his Mercedes in P2. Now, to match Ferrari's return to championship winning ways, Charles Leclerc was able to finish another season at the top and will finish this season by winning his second driver's title. Now, he was in a league of his own this season, winning a total of 9 races, with Norris rounding out the season after just 2 race wins. Red Bull's lackluster season culminates with them losing a driver, as Esteban Ocon is set to leave Formula 1, with Oscar Piastri partnering Lando Norris once again, this time at a different team. Alex Albon makes a big jump from Williams over to McLaren, with the eventual Williams move coming for Liam Lawson. Pierre Gasly will leave the VW team after struggling all season, with a 7-time champion Lewis Hamilton joining the newest F1 team. Debuts will then be provided for both Joshua Dirksen at Racing Bulls and Taylor Barnard, who is brought in by Haas. Now, Season 4 will also see some more regulation changes, with just the powertrain department being hit this time. Now, as we approach the halfway stage of this simulation, Ferrari remain on top, winning back-to-back Constructors titles, with Mercedes remaining as runners-up just ahead of Red Bull. Volkswagen continues to make major improvements to score almost 200 points this season, and overtaking many teams including McLaren to finish in P4. Bortoleto carries on making important advances as he scores 83 points to move up to P8, while Lewis Hamilton has an incredibly successful debut season at VW to finish in P6. The former champion and Red Bull driver Lando Norris falls out of the top 3 to P4, just ahead of his new teammate, but behind Kimi Antonelli, who is able to finish in the top 3 for the first time. Last season's champion Charles Leclerc is only able to finish as the runner-up this year, with Max Verstappen once again leading the championship until the end to be crowned Drivers' Champion for the 6th time. He would win the most races this year, taking 6, with runner-up Charles Leclerc taking 4, while his teammate would only win twice. Both Red Bull drivers were able to win, with Norris winning 3 times, while Oscar Piastri returns to win his first race since Season 2. Now, after a very strong season at VW, Lewis Hamilton is unfortunately going to retire, allowing Oscar Piastri to join the very optimistic new team. Pierre Gasly will return to Formula 1 and will drive his old team Red Bull, while Jack Crawford is dropped by Caulz and replaced by the debuting Richard Verschoor. The powertrain department is once again targeted by some regulation changes, but this time it's joined by the chassis department and also the durability department, which faces changes for the very first time. After managing to win back-to-back titles, Ferrari are knocked off the top of the Constructor standings, with the Mercedes team winning their first title of the video and their first for the team since 2021. Volkswagen drop a place to finish in P5, with the biggest improvements being seen from Alpine, who jump all the way up to P4. Gabriel Bortoleto unfortunately falls to P13 after only scoring 23 points, with Piastri having a very mediocre season which saw him in P9, but quite a way off the championship leaders. Lando Norris is able to gain some positions and will finish Season 6 in 3rd place after Charles Leclerc falls down to P4. Kimi Antonelli has really found his place at Ferrari and is able to record his highest ever finish as he takes the runner-up spot. The title is then unsurprisingly won by Max Verstappen once again, outscoring Kimi by over 60 points. Verstappen's 6 wins were also out of reach, with the runner-up of Antonelli only being able to win on 1 occasion. Both 3rd and 4th place Norris and Leclerc would pick up 3 race wins each, with Pierre Gasly winning just a single race. The Mercedes driver Franco Colapinto would also be able to secure his first race wins on the way to helping Mercedes lift the title. Now, a big transfer market is triggered by the retirement of Carlos Sainz, with Pierre Gasly and Gabriel Bortoleto both losing their seats too. Liam Lawson will make the first move over to McLaren, with Richard Verschoor joining Williams. The other Williams driver, Isaac Hadjar, will move over to Caulz, with Esteban Ocon being brought in as part of the team's new pairing. The open seat of Red Bull allows Max Verstappen to return to his home team, with the other Red Bull driver Lando Norris moving to Mercedes, with George Russell returning to partner Max Verstappen. The newest team on the grid signed the newest race winner, with Colapinto joining Volkswagen. Oliver Bearman moves over to Mercedes, and Zach O'Sullivan comes in to drive for Aston Martin. And for the 5th time at the end of Season 6, the powertrain department will face regulation changes, with the chassis department also being hit for consecutive seasons. Mercedes' success didn't really last long, as they fall to P2 after their championship success last year. Instead, this year we'll see Red Bull rising back to the top, with Alpine very shockingly finishing in 3rd place and overtaking Ferrari. Volkswagen will fall a couple places to finish this year in P7, but have completely left the Sauber team, who finished dead last without scoring any points. The VW drivers would finish alongside each other, with Piastri finishing in P12, with Colapinto finishing just behind. Last season's champion Max Verstappen wouldn't be able to win another title, finishing over 50 points short of his teammate George Russell, who takes the runner-up spot in his debut season at Red Bull. Now, with the former champions failing to win, the door is opened for Lando Norris to take his second Drivers' Championship, but his first with his new Mercedes team. Norris would actually finish just 2 points ahead of George Russell, with a title fight going all the way to Abu Dhabi. Norris would take 5 race wins this season compared to 3 race wins for both Red Bull drivers. Charles Leclerc wins another race, with Oliver Behrman and both Alpine drivers of Pepe Marti and Jack Doohan all winning their first Formula 1 races. Now, despite providing Alpine's first race since Esteban Ocon in Hungary, Jack Doohan will leave the team, and is replaced by a returning Gabriel Bortoleto. This season's runner-up George Russell will leave Red Bull after missing out by just 2 points, and is replaced by new race winner Oliver Behrman. Charles Leclerc will leave Ferrari in favour of Mercedes, with Zach O'Sullivan moving over to the Scarlet team. Franco Colapinto is poached by Aston Martin, with Zane Maloney being brought in by Volkswagen. The last open seat is then given to Jack Crawford, who will drive for the Racing Bulls next year. Now, once again, the powertrain department does get hit with regulation changes, this time alongside the aerodynamics department. There was barely any competition this year, with last season's champions Red Bull falling to 3rd place, while the Mercedes team absolutely dominate the standings, winning the title with almost a 150 point gap to Ferrari in 2nd. Volkswagen do remain in the middle of the midfield, scoring just 66 points to finish in P6. Oscar Piastri gets lost in the middle of the pack, finishing in P12, being beaten by his new teammate Zane Maloney, who manages to finish in P10. Both Red Bull drivers miss out on the top 3, with Verstappen finishing 4th, quite far behind Kimi Antonelli, who takes his Ferrari into 3rd place. Former Ferrari driver Charles Leclerc moves his Mercedes into 2nd, but will play second fiddle to his teammate Lando Norris, who will once again take the Drivers' Championship, and no one even came close. 10 out of the 16 races were won by the champion Lando Norris, with his teammate Charles Leclerc winning just twice. Kimi Antonelli would then round off the season with just 4 race wins. The driver moves this year are quite limited, with Oliver Behrman being dropped by Red Bull and once again replaced by George Russell. Richard Verschoor will then move to Haas to replace Taylor Barnard, who moves to Sauber to replace Isaac Hadjar, who will take Richard Verschoor's original seat at Williams. Now, next season could see some major changes, as the aerodynamics, chassis and durability departments all hit with regulation changes as we head into the penultimate season. And changes is what we do see at the top of the Constructors' Championship, as reigning champions Mercedes fall to runner-up, as Ferrari once again take the title. Alpine still finish in 3rd place ahead of Red Bull, Aston Martin and the Volkswagen team, who remain in P6. Now, the VW drivers remain in similar positions, with Maloney remaining in P10, while Piastri drops a place to finish in 13th. Ferrari driver Zach O'Sullivan has a strong season to finish as high as P4, just behind both Mercedes drivers, as Charles Leclerc falls a place to finish in 3rd. The reigning champion of Lando Norris fails to secure a 3rd title in a row and falls to runner-up position. This allows for a brand new champion to be crowned, in the form of Ferrari driver Kimi Antonelli, who makes his much anticipated rise to the very top. His 85-point lead would be a result of him taking 8 race wins compared to Lando Norris, who would take 4, while Leclerc actually failed to win any races. The 4 remaining wins were then split evenly between Zach O'Sullivan winning his first race, George Russell, and both Alpines of Bortoleto and Pepe Marti. Now, the final driver transfer will see Alex Albon leaving the sport, with Hadjar joining McLaren, Crawford signing for Williams, and Ritomo Miata being brought in for his debut season in the final year. Volkswagen and Red Bull will strike a deal which sees Oscar Piastri and George Russell swapping teams next year. The new champion Kimi Antonelli will leave Ferrari, with Gabriel Bortoleto jumping ship, with Max Verstappen actually upgrading by moving to Alpine. Charles Leclerc then moves to Red Bull, allowing the champion of Kimi Antonelli to finish the simulation with the same team he started with. Now, also heading into the final season, once again the powertrain department is hit with more changes, this time alongside the durability department. Now, the final season of this simulation will see Red Bull as the final victors of the Constructors' Championship, with Mercedes falling to runners-up, and with the reigning champs Ferrari falling down to P4. They also get overtaken by the Volkswagen team, who record their highest finish of 3rd place in the final season. They unfortunately end without any of their drivers having finished in the top 3, with George Russell finishing in P7, while Zane Maloney finishes just 7 points short in P4. Oscar Piastri hasn't been seen inside the top 3 since all the way back in Season 2, but will take advantage of a strong Red Bull car to finish the last season in 3rd place. The reigning champion Kimi Antonelli isn't able to finish with another championship title, but did make a good decision to leave Ferrari, but doesn't quite match the pace of the other Red Bull driver of Charles Leclerc. Leclerc is able to utilise his new team to its fullest potential to round out the simulation as the final World Drivers' Champion. Now, he would put on a very strong season after he won a total of 7 races, with both VW drivers, the Ferrari of Bortoleto and the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli, all managing to win twice. Oscar Piastri would then be the final driver to stand on the top step of the podium. And that is going to wrap up the 10 season simulator with a very underwhelming Volkswagen team. Now, let's add it all up and find out who had the most successful decade in Formula 1. Now first of all, 4 different teams were able to win the Constructors' Championship, with the new addition failing to do so. McLaren would end with just 1 title win, unlike Mercedes who won 2, Ferrari who managed 3, but the Red Bull team would end the simulation with the most titles after they won 4 times. There would also be 4 different drivers champions, with Antonelli winning just the 1. Leclerc would be the first champion and will win a total of 3 times, just like Max Verstappen and Lando Norris, as they all win 3 titles. Now a whopping 18 different drivers would win a race, with 9 of them being first time race winners. Zach O'Sullivan, Pierre Gasly, Oliver Behrman, Lewis Hamilton, Jack Doohan, Esteban Ocon, Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon were all able to take a single race win. Both Zane Maloney and Franco Colapinto would win 2 races each, while Pepe Marti and Gabriel Bortoleto would take 3. George Russell ends with another 7 race wins, Oscar Piastri adds 9 to his tally, while Kimi Antonelli takes his up to 17. Now the top 3 drivers will all secure over 30 race wins each, with Verstappen winning 35, Norris winning 36, but Charles Leclerc would end at the top after he won 38 different times. And that's going to wrap up another video on F1 25. Now if you did enjoy this video, make sure you drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. We've just hit 10k, which was my goal for the year, but let's see how far we can get before we hit 2026. The links will be in the description for the Volkswagen livery mod, as well as all my social media platforms, including my Discord server, which is the best way to receive updates about uploads on this channel. But that is going to be all from me today, so I hope you have a good day, evening or night, wherever you are, and goodbye.